All right, welcome everybody to a product spotlight. We are going all the way to Colorado today. We are going to have Alpine high performance products on the show. American crafted, super insulating, high performance windows, doors, and architectural glass. Take a behind the scenes look at the manufacturing facility, creating amazing views from the tip of Antarctica to the top of the Empire State Building. Alpine High Performance Products manufactures super insulating, thermally efficient residential and commercial windows and architectural glass, utilizing 3 decades. That's right, 3 decades of experience incorporating lightweight suspended film technology. Alpine Glass super insulating units are used throughout Alpine's residential and commercial window and door products, as well as in Alpine's architectural glazing solutions. The exceptionally thermal performance of Alpine windows and glazing solution grants the freedom to design the maximum glass across all building types and climate zones. Wait until you hear where they are building. Alpine units provide a powerful combination of optimum solar control, which blocks summer heat, retaining winter warmth, eliminating harmful ultraviolet rays, and maximizing natural daylight and clarity, providing the ultimate in architectural freedom. Building Green has recognized Alpine's secondary window Winsert as a top 10 building product for 2022, making Alpine one of the only select few companies to receive the prestigious award 3 times in 20-year history of the program. But we can't do all of this without first bringing you our sponsors. So we want to thank our sponsors because they help us bring you all the greatest products that are out there. So thank you to them for helping us advance construction and to build it better. So a big shout out to Forward Solutions Group for allowing us to deliver these examples of construction innovation. Forward Solutions Group is successfully driving companies to succeed where others have failed. Also, learn more about Forward's recent acquisition of ModuCore, an ERP solution for offsite manufacturing. Go ahead and contact the Ben Hershey at ben@forwardsolutionsgroup.com. And also a big thank you to Howick Ltd. Howick has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and produces innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the U.S. and the world. Check out their machine buyer's guide for offsite modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Go to their website, howickltd.com. Again, a big shout out. They are amazing people, and they're amazing people to work with as well. So with that said, without further ado, let's hop into it and bring our guests on to the show. Look at that. We have Craig Meyerhofer, and we also have Todd Collins on. Craig and Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave.
So, Craig, you are the VP of Business Development, and Todd, you actually are the owner of AE Building Systems, and you collaborate and partner together to sell some awesome products in a highly energy efficient building world, all the way to passive house. So I want to hop into this, but before we get into the factory tour and talking about the product, Todd, why don't you give us a few seconds of your time, because we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will call your mother, and we'll have her on the show, and she will tell us everything you don't want us to know. You only got a minute to do it, though. Go for it.
Sure, yeah, that's for certain. So, when it boils down to it, we're a manufacturer's rep for Alpine high performance products. We help them with the sales. But we're also a product distributor for other manufacturers' products, to include SIGA, Advantage Architectural Woodwork, and Build Equinox ERB. So we kind of run the gamut of high performance building, from fenestration, air and weather barriers, and some ventilation systems. So that's when it getting back to the old stuff, I'm an energy geek, and I get a kick out of this stuff. I really enjoy working with our clients and helping them to achieve extraordinary energy efficiency objectives in their projects. So that's how I ended up here, and really enjoy what I do.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. Okay, now you are up, Craig. Craig, we want to know everything about you as well, or we're going to have your mother on as well. And you got a big job. I mean, you're on the business development side and growing this industry. I mean, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, but it seems like you have been able to take things around the world along with your teammates there at Alpine. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, I would certainly default to the teammates on that end of the conversation, Dave. They're the ones that are in the trenches doing the hard work, and so appreciative of them. I've pretty much been in Colorado my entire life. My career spans, and I have family here still as well, including my mother. My career spans over a few different areas, from being a professional musician in my 20s, working in the steel business for about 15 years, and then I've been with Alpin for close to 8 years as well. And I go back to that steel industry with our current CEO, Brad Began. And so, as the VP of Business Development, I get to show up every day and work with a tremendous staff of sales and marketing people. Get to wear a lot of hats, get to take new products to market. It's a wonderful company to work for, and we've seen a tremendous amount of growth over the past several years since I've been here and before. So, delighted to be on with you today, and thanks so much.
Yeah, well, we're delighted to have you on. 3 decades is, there's a lot of experience behind that when we talk about any company that's out there, and you've always been about putting out better products, building it better, more sustainable products. So before we hop into this, everybody, we are going to do a factory walkthrough, and this isn't your typical factory walkthrough. I had the fortunate pleasure of stopping by Alpin Windows on our road trip when we were in Colorado almost a year ago, and I literally walked through the manufacturing facility with my camera as if you were walking through it. And we're going to walk through that and talk about it. We're going to show some of the products and the type of glass that they are currently using to achieve the high performance that they're looking to achieve. But first, make sure that you are following Alpin Windows and AE on where you guys, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, you name it. You're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
All of them.
All the above.
There you go. So Alpin Windows, AE Building Systems, follow them. If you're not following them, you're wrong, because we're about building it better and they are doing that. So let's hop on that. And we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Don't forget to get your tweets on with that Twitter. That Twitter's kind of blowing up. It's all over the news now. So let's take advantage of it and get the word out there to everybody, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, let's hop into this, fellas. There's a lot of window companies in the world that are out there. What really is making the difference for you at Alpin? What separates you from the competition? How are your windows different?
I'll start off, Todd. I think that it really comes down to performance in terms of where the separation is. You have some very, very large window manufacturing companies in the country that do a terrific job in the markets that they're serving, whether it be volume builders, which is mostly what that is. We tend to focus on really high performance building, and probably 2/3 of what we get involved in is either has some sort of a passive house component to it. Not always, and not typically going straight for certification. Maybe 1 in 8 or 10 are going for that certification, but are inspired by the passive house standards and want to build a structure that performs at that level. So that's sort of the niche market that we're in. I always like to say, if you look at the big window manufacturers, where they sort of top out in terms of their performance is where Alpin starts, and we go up from there. We do manufacture the highest performing windows in the country.
So when you talk about manufacturing the highest performance windows, have you always started there, or was it kind of just something that the company fell in love with? When we look at the history, because it's a very niche marketplace. It's really starting to gain some serious market share. Look at oil prices going up. So this is as bad as it is for the economy, it forces people to look at using better products to build it better and save energy costs and all of those things. What's the history behind how you became a leader in this space?
Yeah, it goes all the way back to our founder, Robert Clark, and we're at 4 decades now. Actually, Robert started the company in 1981, and up until 2006, it was strictly architectural glass. And Robert has always been on the cutting edge of energy performance within fenestration and glass and windows. And so he was responsible for first commercializing heat mirror technology, which utilizes a low-E coated suspended film in the center of the cavity of the glass unit. And so he did that all through the 80s and the 90s. There was an acquisition of the company by our current CEO in 2006. And he was also very mindfully focused on where the trends were going relative to energy efficiency and what was happening with the world, and started to develop into a high performance window system utilizing a fully pultruded fiberglass frame in combination with those heat mirror units. And so that's kind of where the initial ground of the company started, and it's just flowed into passive house and net zero and other higher performance standards since then.
Yeah, for sure. And and Todd, you're probably going to chime in on this too, and that kind of leads into like, all right, what problem are we solving? And you kind of mentioned it, right? There was a need for a high performance window. We built all these houses with R19, R21 sidewall insulation, R38, R42 in the attic, dot 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 dot, and then we have an R2.5 window, right? And then you have entire homes with just R2 or whatever it is. I'm just making some numbers up, but it's pretty low. It doesn't make it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So when we look at what problem we're solving here, you're one of the very few out there that's building a higher performing, higher R value window. And is that accurate?
To chime in, you can look at a window as kind of a thermal hole in the dike. It's a hole in your wall for thermal energy losses, and it truly is where we're solving a problem. At an R2 window, going to R3 is a 50% increase. When you go from, say, R15 in a wall to R25, you're going to get less of an impact using an R4, 5, 6 window over an R2 window than you're going to get going from R15 to R30 in the walls. It truly is, and we actually have a blog coming out to simplify that message and that concept this month. But it's really about that thermal hole in the dike, which is the walls.
Yeah, you're okay. So you're opening up the floodgates for me. I love it. All right, so you mentioned earlier, our introduction and how we came to be and know you and stop by was through Etienne, who is the CEO of SIGA North America, and they are all about passive house. They're all about air barriers. They're all about higher R values. How do you control the humidity, from inside to out and vice versa? And you made a great comment there. A lot of people don't understand, 20 missed nail holes equals the size of a golf ball. Now you have golf ball holes all through your house right? But it's the same thing as what you're saying with the windows. If you're only going to put a window in there that's only two value in the R rating or what have you, it's like having a bunch of big holes throughout your house. And when we're trying to save energy, that's not good. And I'm trying to relate that to that so people understand. I mean, you're saying the same thing, yes?
Exactly. I don't know how else to give a visual than that thermal hole in the dike, the hole in the dike in short, but it really is the weak link in our wall assemblies. So yeah. the windows are, and improving the windows is going to help improve the overall wall and windows included, significantly more than going extraordinary depths of insulation, which is good. I don't want to deny the fact that more insulation is definitely a good thing, but there is a law of diminishing returns when you got R values. It's a curve. I should do it this way. It's a curve rather than a straight line. It's not for every level of insulation you get equal value in thermal performance. It's not that way.
No question. Those two have to work in harmony together. You have to have a higher performing wall, a higher performing R value wall, but the whole system of the envelope together is only as strong as its weakest link. So you have to have a high performance window in combination with that to really get the type of envelope that's going to give you that insulation value on the entire structure. And that's where we really key in on the design side, is how do we work with those other elements of the envelope to make it better and make it higher performing.
Well, that's right. And Todd, I know how we can demonstrate visually. Everybody that's watching the show, look at the windows wherever you're sitting. That's a big hole, right? Yeah. I'm telling you now, I guarantee it's probably not an Alpine style window that's there. But the other thing, Craig, that you just said is, how does it work together with the rest of the system? It's a system. It's part of a system. And we need to look at what we're doing on these homes as a system today so it functions. houses with moisture and mold and not really understanding how all of that heat and moisture transfers back and forth. It causes a lot of problems. And I'm sure in the window industry, it causes a lot of issues around houses. I'm sure how many people out there, raise your hand, I can't see it, or maybe hit the like button, that you've been in homes where the inside of the window's sweating and on a cold day or a hot day, however the sun's hitting it. And I think this is kind of what we're saying on the show. Concur?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
question about it.
I love it. So what are the R values? Run us through a little bit of what some of the values of your windows are.
Do you want me to? You want it, Craig?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, we make two window lines, and both of them sort of have roughly the same starting point and top point. And we basically go across the two from a minimum of an R5 window for the whole assembly. And that's not just center of glass, that's the entire window assembly, all the way up to R11. And that's not just us tooting our own horn. Those are NFRC certified numbers. So those are third party tested and certified performance figures that, quite frankly, as we get into that R10 and R11, which is a small portion of our business, but still an important one for those that want to go for the gusto. There's not another manufacturer that's able to get that kind of a performance level.
Yeah, R10 or R11. Todd, I would imagine as you're out in the field talking about windows, especially with high performance builders, it seems like a no brainer to me. If you're trying to reach passive house, you're trying to reach LEED certification or any of these high value type certifications. I mean, this is super important, and this gives you a definite leg up on achieving that goal versus, using a traditional window and trying to make everything around it work better.
Well, given passive house is a performance-based standard and not a prescriptive standard where LEED is more of that. In short, it's absolutely critical in order to get to a passive house certification. Now, there is the consideration of which climate you're in, and that will also gauge, and not really gauge, but drive what product line you go with and how high of a performance you need. So, in a more mild climate, San Francisco, for example, you might be able to get by with an R6 approach, where if you're up in the mountains here in Colorado, R9, R10, R11 becomes more critical in order to meet that performance-based requirement.
Yeah, got it. What other products outside of the windows, Craig, are you guys offering? I just want to make sure that everybody understands it's not just windows, right? You guys have a whole performance line.
For sure. You mentioned it in the lead-in where you talked about Building Green and their recognition here in 2022 of our Windcert product. And that the Windcert product is essentially, it's a patented solution. It's a lightweight, high performance interior window insert that really takes old, leaky, and poor performing windows and transforms them into essentially brand new super insulating windows. One of the biggest issues out there is the built environment. How do we raise those standards for these old buildings that are existing out there today and get them up to a high performance level without having to spend massive amounts of money on the building envelope? The result after installation of these inserts is it's a quieter, more comfortable indoor environment, improved air quality, and it results in a premium real estate space where people actually want to be and want to live and work. It reduces the whole building energy by an average of 20 to 30%. And the best part is the install, it takes about 1/5 of the time that it does to replace windows. And it's at about 1/5 of the cost to replace windows. So we're seeing a lot of traction with our Windcert product. And there's a lot of company focus on that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So what you're saying is we're not just going to rip down every house that's out there and rebuild new high performance homes, right? You're saying, well, we need to find a way to retrofit a lot of these homes, because a lot of them, that's what's going to happen. And to cut down on the energy usage, we all have a part in doing this, whether we're building something new or we have something existing that we want to modify.
Yeah, and our focus is definitely more on the commercial side with that particular solution. Yeah. Because you see in a lot of cities around the country, they're starting to increase the code requirements. New York City local law 97 is probably the most stringent, where between now and 2030, every year, the penalties are raising a little bit more and more for those buildings that are not achieving performance levels. And these are skyscrapers. These are mid-sized skyscrapers that need to find a solution to improve their envelope to meet those requirements. And the Windcert product is a quick, easy, inexpensive, high-performing solution that helps get them to those goals, so they don't have to pay those massive fines.
Yeah, this is awesome, right? Because a perfect example of your product being used in a commercial building that I think the world all knows is the Empire State Building. You basically cleaned out an entire floor and built a production facility, it sounds like, in the Empire State Building to retrofit. And that's a lot of windows.
It's like
That's a lot of
13,000, isn't it?
Yep, 13,000 glass units. They're all double hung, so 6,500 windows.
So there you go. When you're at the Empire State Building and you're taking your kids through and you say, well, I saw that show. I know exactly where these windows, were manufactured. Well, they were actually manufactured on site for the most part in this case, but that's a big enough product.
Well, even better, Dave, they were remanufactured. They literally took out the windows, took them apart, and then remanufactured them with Alpine technology and approach.
Wow.
Saved the original glass.
And saved the original glass.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do with your
added another pane? So it was probably the largest glass recycling project ever. But every window was taken out. The glass was removed. We built new glass units with suspended film technology, reinstalled the glass into the frames, and then put them back in. So very low embodied energy involved with that project, and very low landfill involved with that project.
Yeah.
Well, disposal costs in New York City are tremendous, atrocious, better said. So that was one of the reasons the remanufacturing approach was selected.
So what I love about this is you guys build a system on site to reduce shipping and handling. I mean, you're coming from high altitude to low altitude, right? There's all kinds of different things that happen in between. We'll talk about that a little bit further in with the balloons you all use on your windows, which I think is pretty cool. But it's not just the Empire State Building. You guys are doing work in Antarctica, and you're working currently on the largest passive house or passive building ever built.
Yeah, I would phrase it this way, that in terms of the project itself, which is located at the University of Toronto, Scarborough, it will be the Guinness Book of World Records largest passive house in terms of treated floor area. So in terms of overall building size, there's one that's slightly larger, but in terms of treated floor area, it will be the Guinness Book of World Records largest certified passive house building. So we're delighted we get to be part of fun projects, man.
Yeah,
and that's the cool thing about the company is we get to do cool stuff and get to work with really cool people.
Okay, I mean, congratulations on it. I mean, it says a lot for who you are as a company, and just so everybody knows, when you get picked and you win bids on large projects like this, there's a lot that goes into who these people are picking to work with, and you're checking all those check boxes, and that says a lot. It really, really does. So there's a lot on the line, especially with Empire State Buildings, Antarctica. I mean, there's no running back to the factory if you're in Antarctica to fix something, right? It better be right.
It's a tough one to service.
Yeah, right. Right. I'd like to be your service guy for that, right? Fly in, hang out with some polar bears for a couple of days, fly home. All right. Let's hop in a little bit deeper here. So what are you guys currently working on? What can we expect from Alpine here in the future? New product focus, any of that stuff?
Yeah, I think the Windcert product obviously is the biggest one that we're working on right now. We're also working on bringing up another line of UPVC windows to address the fire victims in Louisville and Superior. We've used this particular UPVC profile on a couple of commercial projects, but it's a North American style outswing casement type of window, and we think it's a perfect fit at an affordable price, and we're offering other incentives for those, 1,000 homes burned to the ground here in that fire, and we're in Louisville, Colorado, so we very, very much feel the affinity with those people to try to help them and work through them. And Boulder County and the Colorado Green Building Guild and lots of local folks, even Excel Energy in terms of rebates. Everybody's kind of chipping in to make this thing work, and we're right in the mix of it with trying to put together a new window line called the Louisville Series, specifically developed to help those people get into a higher performing window at a good cost structure.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Craig, it probably makes sense to, while it's not new information, but it's somewhat new, the thin glass technology that you guys have put in place over the last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to go into that next, Todd, but you want to take a crack at it?
Sure. So Alpen had been experimenting with thin glass, and thin glass is what you might find on the front of a TV, and the TVs have gotten extraordinarily big. So manufacturers of glass have actually started floating it in huge sizes and at a reasonable price point. Alpen started experimenting with it in the field a few years ago, and then most recently put it through a wind test. And they actually took a window to failure, i.e. it completely imploded, at 225 miles per hour, Craig? I think it was.
240.
240. And during that process, they noticed that the last pane of glass run in very, very, very slow motion, the last pane of glass to break was the thin glass. And they think it's largely because that thin glass has more flex to it than the thicker glass. But this thin glass has been in production since April, May of last year, and it's actually overtaken our thin film, volume in sales.
2 to 1. The IG units we're making now are 2 to 1 thin glass versus thin film.
But it's a relatively new thing in the market.
Why don't we put a picture of that up? And for everybody that's just joining us now, we have Alpen windows and doors on Alpen high performance products. And we are going to do a factory walkthrough here in just a few moments. So please hit that like and share button if you are just joining us. And also tell us where you're joining from. We got folks all the way from Poland, Arizona, Germany. I'm seeing people from all over the place here. Let us know. We love to know where you're joining us. And also, Alpen seems they can build in Antarctica. I bet they can build where you're at. So just I don't think there's a whole lot of limitations there. All right, Todd, what are we looking at here? We got your YouTube up.
Yeah, this is a video we did a while back, and you'll notice the window or corner cut on the left. You'll see that the outside panes of glass there are eighth inch, and the inner pane of glass is only 1.3 millimeters. And what this affords us that we don't get with suspended films is you'll notice that spacer isn't shiny where the ones on the right are. That spacer is a high-density foam product that helps eliminate the thermal bridge in the actual window itself. Spacers are a thermal bridge. So with suspended films, we have to use a metal spacer. With thin glass, we can use what's called a super spacer, and it improves the performance of the overall window even more. The one on the right is also thin glass, and it shows a stainless steel spacer incorrectly. It shouldn't have a stainless steel spacer. So that is a wrong representation of our quad pane, but it is a quad pane with thin glass. So there's 2 outer panes at an 1/8 inch, 2 inner panes at 1.3 millimeters. And then we use krypton gas in that assembly as well. And that helps us to achieve, I believe, right around R15, R16 center of glass performance, thermal performance values.
So say it one more time. Center
of
glass thermal value performances are what?
15 at the center of the glazing unit.
So, to the center of the glazing unit, which is different than the R11, 10, 11 we were talking about earlier.
Because that's a weighted average of all the materials. So the frames will be around R6, where the center of the glasses are 15, and when you actually do an NFRC value, entire system, together, it's a weighted average of the 2 areas.
Yeah, and in NFRC, for people that are joining us, that are watching this, that are interested and not part of, Passive House or any of the other certifications and understanding that, what does that exactly mean?
NFRC is the National Fenestration Rating Council, and they're kind of the governing body for window manufacturers, window and door manufacturers. And they oversee to make sure that they're being truthful and honest in their documentation and their R values, U values,
Right.
their air infiltration values, and various other things.
And every window that we ship out has an NFRC sticker on it, which documents what those performance values are of those units. And if you're not certified by NFRC, you can't do that. So that's just it's a check balance by a third party testing. So you know what you're putting out there. You know, the customer knows what they're getting.
Got it. So one of the big things I picked up, because we talk about this a lot on the show, is how important the thermal break is. And if I'm hearing you correctly, on the last product we were showing, and you have thermal brakes built into the Windows system.
Well, you can see in that image that's up right now, that insert that's in the frame that's sticking up there is polyurethane foam. Mm-hmm. And that helps to reduce the thermal transfer through the frame. Now, the thermal bridge is right there where the metal is, the spacers. And that thermal bridge can be quite important, and this is why you'll notice condensation on the inside of windows is typically right on the edge of the frame, right on the edge of the glass. And that's because that portion of the glass is the coldest because of that thermal bridge. So that thermal bridge lowers the surface temperature on the inside, and that's why you get sweating and ice in some cases when we're hitting 0 degrees or even lower.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, this comes down to the system. I can't stress this enough to everybody. It's not just about your walls. The windows make a big part of a home. And if you don't have the thermal breaks in, you don't have the R value and the insulation value, it goes back to what you said earlier, Todd. They're just big holes really in the wall without the wind blowing on you, for the most part.
Yeah,
so,
thermal hole.
And I think this is where you guys are taking it to the next level, because this isn't simple stuff. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of technology that goes into doing this. That thin glass. I mean, when we say it's thin, it is like razor thin. You'll cut your finger on it. It's so thin. I think there's a portion of the video that shows where the rolls are. But I mean, it's super cool. And when you were talking about the impact or whatever, you're right, because it's when you broke the windows or they imploded, it makes a lot of sense that the bigger panes would break first. But it looks like that middle pane probably would flex enough to hit the back or the front window before the others.
It is kind of amazing how much glass flexes in general. It's surprising.
Right? It is. All right, let's go to the factory here, fellas. So
sure.
Why don't you kind of walk us through what we're seeing? And I'm going to stop it right here just so everybody understands. I walk through with the camera, and this is exactly what we're doing. So walk us through what we're seeing as we do this.
Yep. Yeah, we're coming right out of our office door and right into the build area for one of 2 lines that we manufacture. So our 2 lines, the first one is called our Zenith Series, and it's a full pultruded fiberglass frame, long strand fiberglass. And so that's the build area for that fiberglass product, which the styling is typical North American style, outswing casements and awnings, very low profile windows, more sight lines, narrower sight line. And then we're moving through that build area. We kind of go out of order here, but I think this next area that we're walking through, and I just saw Todd. Look at that; he's in 2 places.
Yeah. Well, Todd's giving me the tour through, but so everybody knows the beginning of the line's really where we're headed to. But again, this is you walking through the factories. If you showed up there and you're seeing what's going on, I even spin on this cool machine here. Todd was kind of explaining it to me. It's right around the bend. What is this?
That's the wrapper. Once the windows are fully manufactured, they put them on the wrapper, and there's a cellophane roll that runs up and down and wraps the entire assembly, the entire window up. So that's the wrapper.
I love it.
It spins.
I call it my favorite machine in the entire plant.
It's the wrapper. I love it.
As the one who oversees sales for the company, when that machine is running, I know we're shipping.
Right, there you go. And here we're seeing, I mean, look at all the product you guys have sitting, ready to be installed, which is amazing on the left and right.
And this is all raw material that you went through on the right and left.
Sure.
Shipping, receiving, everything comes in and out of this area.
All right. So this is where the process starts.
Yep.
Yep. We have three docks, 1 ramp. everything
trying not
comes
to make everybody sick with quick movements. So
No, you're
bear
going
with it.
fine. There you can see more raw material. Everything that we fabricate from comes in an 18 to 24 foot lengths.
Yep. All right, so everything comes in, and this is and right around the bend here is where they start working on the frames and prepping everything for sanding and right. That's going to go
Yep.
into the paint booth. Yes.
Yeah, that's the fiberglass side. So you briefly saw the paint booth there. Everything that we do with our fiberglass product is a painted product. So even white, when those profiles come in from our supplier, even white has to be painted white, even though they all look white.
Yeah.
And so that's the paint area for our fiberglass line of windows, and that's all painted product there. And then we start to get into what we call the cut room, and the cut room is where we're making our miter cuts for all of the,
Look at all that product.
frames and all of the sashes. We do some routing in this area. There's a lot of automation.
So this machine here, what is it doing? It's pulling the product through, and what is it doing?
Yep. Go ahead, Todd.
Oh, that's one of the saws for the making the cuts on the fiberglass, and then behind that, off to the left is a CNC drill. It actually puts holes in for hardware and for fastening the corners, because it is a mechanically fastened corner on the Zenith product.
Right. Very cool.
I think we come up on the insulation products. We used to try to blow insulation in, with the great stuff, stuff you get at Home Depot, more or less.
Right.
But the blown polyurethane, we found that it just creates there's the insulation. Mm-hmm. So we have it pre-made, pre-cut in the sizes we need now. But historically, we gave it a shot with blown insulation, and it just puts too much pressure on the frames when it's curing and when it's expanding. So the pre-cut polyurethane is a better bet.
And this is the CNC machine you were talking about?
That is correct. And when Alpin moved into this new facility, this is one of the acquisitions they made. Historically, they'd been using, various jigs to drill holes. And, jigs over time wear out, and your quality control can suffer as a result. So going to the CNC drill was one way to help improve QC and predictability of the work that we're doing in the factory.
So go ahead, Craig.
Quality out in the field, more consistent quality out in the field.
Right. I mean, you literally have an assembly line here. A lot of this product is like the foam for the thermal breaks and all that. That's pre-made off-site. You're not making each piece of that, are you?
Nope. That comes prefabricated to fit directly into our various profiles that we build windows from.
Got it.
So we're back out where we were before. Where this to the left of us here is that fiberglass build area where they're fabricating those units, putting them together and securing them mechanically instead of through a welding process. Everything is mechanically put together in terms of the miter joints for that fiberglass product.
And is there a reason you do it this way versus any other way?
There really is no other way. With fiberglass, it just has to be. You cannot weld it, melt it. It has to be mechanically fastened together. So there's a system inside of the frame that we use to make sure all the screws have the proper bite, and we're using proper sealing in the miter joints. Yeah. And then we're doing a liquid insulation fill in the corners, where the foam insulation can't get all the way to those corners. So we're filling those corners in with a liquid insulation. So we make sure that we have an insulated frame all around the perimeter of the frame and that's all to not have those thermal bridges once the units are put into the wall.
Right. And what are we walking up to here?
This is where Tyrol is manufactured. Tyrol is a UPVC European style product. The machine right there in front of you is a double miter saw. It actually cuts both corners at the same time.
Oh, got it. Perfect.
Yep. And then as you get closer to the beyond that is a 4-point welder. It welds all four corners at the same time. So those corners are a welded corner rather than a mechanically fastened corner. Craig,
is that it to the left there?
Yep.
Let me just, in fact, I think I zoom in on it when we come around here. And just so everybody knows, we intentionally picked a quiet time to get through here because there are so many busy beavers running around, as you can see, and And coming through some of these spaces, it's not safe for me to do any other way. So this
So
is
that is the
the welding
4-point
area.
welder.
That's
Yeah.
the 4-point welder, and
Mhm.
so each one of the 4 pieces goes in. A hot plate slides in, preps that surface for welding, and then all 4 are welded together. I will throw in that it's a fiberglass reinforced UPVC that we're fabricating here, and that's a critical issue because that fiberglass piece to it actually adds it's within the extrusion process where it's co-extruded in with the UPVC, makes it 2 times stronger than a typical UPVC window, and that's a key element because we can go larger with those sizes without having to put steel reinforcement into the frame. And anytime we can keep steel, just like Todd was talking earlier about the spacer system, anytime we can keep steel out of the assembly, now we have a better performing insulator because
Right.
the steel tends to be a thermal bridge.
So, and what we're looking at here, this is where the weld happened on the corner of the window.
Mhm.
Yes,
That's correct. Yep.
right.
And it hasn't been cleaned yet.
It hasn't been cleaned. So that's the rough product before it goes to the next phase. So people can really understand that. I mean, it is solidly welded, and then it gets sanded down. So, and then when they sand it down, you can check for any imperfections or pockets or something. So that's kind of the value of what's happening there.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the backside of it.
Yeah, they become the substrate becomes physically joined together.
Yeah.
I think the next machine that comes up will be that cleaner, actually.
Should
The
be the
weld
corner.
cleaner.
Yeah, I love it.
You can see little ridges.
There's Todd. All right.
There's a cleaner.
Yep.
All right. So again, now this is a mechanical machine that those go into, and it's going to sand all of that down smooth as a baby's butt, as I like to say.
Yeah, it's almost like a router system inside. There's a bit inside of there, and it's specifically programmed for this profile. So when the corner goes in, it is the computer tells exactly where to go around that entire profile to route out any of those lips that were formed through the welding process and shave those out of there.
What you just showed there was a 2-point welder. We don't use it as much, but when we need to.
Yeah. And what do we have going on here? This is there looks like they're putting on hardware.
Yeah, that's a French door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, they're building a French door there, putting on hardware. You just everything that goes into the fabrication process. You can see that corner right there, how clean that is compared to what we saw before. But this, you're getting into the whole build area, just like we saw a build area for fiberglass. This is our build area for our Tyrol fiberglass reinforced UPVC product. So that's where they're putting everything, taking those boxes and adding the hardware for our tilt and turn windows. This line is all European style, so everything is an in-swing, tilt and turn windows, hopper windows, like you would see in Europe.
We're going into the glass IGU fabrication area right now.
Mm-hmm.
Off to the right are where they cut the glass.
Got it.
And you'll see that shortly. And off to the left there, okay, so these are the glass tables where they cut the glass. It's interesting, actually, when they're actually cutting glass, these tables are like air hockey tables, where there's air being blown up from below the table, so they literally just drop the glass onto the table.
Oh, so those sides actually is right. That's exactly right, and they did.
They literally just drop it to the table.
Yeah, and you're almost running for cover if you don't know.
You think it's going to shatter, but it gets caught, and it also allows them because all the glass is manually cut, and so as they're cutting glass, they can flip the table back on and move a large piece of glass, in a circular
without
fashion
any effort,
to the other side without hardly any effort, and then turn it back off, and so the glass stays stable when they're cutting.
Yeah, perfect. And there's that thin film right there. So those are the rolls of that thin glass, right, that goes in between.
Yep.
Thin film, really important.
Thin film.
There is a differentiation. That is the heat mirror thin film.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's coated with, it's a low E coated film in various different low E coatings. Why you have multiple rolls there.
There are actually 5 rolls there.
There's 5.
Yeah, there's a couple of smaller ones in between. So
Yeah, I
3
see
large
that.
rolls, and as Craig mentioned, that different coatings help to achieve different objectives. And this is one of the things that Alpen does that you won't find with other manufacturers. They'll actually tune the glass to the elevation on a building. So high gain, for example, high solar gain on the south is something we want in cold weather climates or heating climates. On the east and west, we're more likely to use a low gain because that's where we overheat in the summer months. And then on the north side, we'll use the best U value, which often is our middle gain. And those different objectives, depending on the elevation of the building, being able to meet those objectives is really important to reduce overheating in the summer and then maximize solar heat gain in the winter.
Sure. Well, so that brings up climate zones, right? Does it matter what climate zone you're building in, or do you have a window for every climate zone?
Almost always.
Almost always?
It matters. Yeah, even from the Front Range here in Denver, the whole Denver area, all the way up to the mountains, we would have a different strategy in the mountains than we do in the Front Range.
Exactly.
So when you're working with a developer or a builder, am I hearing that you actually help them with the science of how your windows are going to perform with their building envelope, whether it's with an architect, a modular manufacturer, a panel manufacturer? You're part of the team versus just selling a window?
Short answer is yes.
Yeah.
That's ideally where we land, yes.
Exactly. I mean, it's an opportunity to be very consultative in the sales process and help them, understanding what their objectives are with the project is key. And then having those choices to be able to offer different solutions for what different objectives are allows us to be nimble and help consult with them to put together the best package that's going to give the highest performance for that structure.
Sure.
And it truly is about optimizing the glazing.
For sure.
It's about making it perform as best as it can.
Right. So what haven't we talked about? What did we not talk about in regards to your products? And is there anything that you want to share?
Craig had mentioned something earlier that I wanted to expand on. It's not just about energy efficiency and conserving energy. There are a lot of kind of, what's the word I want? Tangible but intangible. Comfort and quiet are 2 things that I hear customers say, oh my gosh, I don't hear the wind howling outside. I don't hear the sirens like I used to. With retrofit projects, and I can actually sit next to the window and read a book now, and not have to wear a parka or cover myself with a blanket or whatever it is. That comfort quotient and that quiet quotient are real. They're tangible, but they're kind of those things that people don't realize they're going to get until they actually experience it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mean I'm not going to sit next to the window and feel a nice little breeze come through like at grandma's house?
When it's not even a breeze, what you're getting is a convection current. You're literally getting this cold air dropping on your body, or because the window's so bad, it's literally heat moves to cold. It's sucking the heat off your body and making you feel cold.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, there's a clear financial component with a higher efficiency window, but I think in terms of performance, it clearly the equivalent of the performance is that comfort and being able to claim to claim certain parts of your house that you couldn't sit in certain times of the year. Everybody has that one room that gets so hot in the summer that nobody spends any time in there, or a room that's so cold in the winter nobody spends any time in there. And you really get to reclaim those areas of your house because you have the ability to take those tools that we can offer and tune that structure so that you don't have those cold and hot rooms, and enjoy your entire house and be comfortable and be quiet.
Well, that's right. And go ahead.
I was going to say, interestingly enough, I have a client that lived on a pretty busy road, and they said once the windows went in, and it was a retrofit project, and they said we didn't realize how noisy our living room was until we replaced the windows.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's so much quieter now. We can actually watch TV and hear it.
Well, and thinking about that too, as we talk about high performance, it's one of the things we don't talk about enough is, the comfort level, such as hearing, noise pollution, also becomes minimized, especially in a world that's the population is growing fast. So we can't keep up with building, so there's going to be a lot more buildings built. That noise pollution is just as important, to some people as that energy solution. And the positive side of all of that is you're getting both when you use an Alpine window, right? You
Yeah.
cut down the noise pollution and you get the energy efficiency. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, fellas, listen. I told you it goes fast. Look at that. We're overtime.
Oh my God.
Overtime. That's okay. That's all right. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And listen, guys, Todd, Craig, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you. Don't go anywhere. We'll come right back to you. It was an amazing journey. So hang on tight right there. Everybody else, listen. Dave Cooper's not going to be on the BS Friday show. Make sure you tune in with Mark Bare Naked Willie. And guess who the special host is? Jennifer herself. Jennifer is going to be on with Mark, along with Katrin Klingenberg presenting and telling us about their upcoming event on April 26th through the 28th. And that is the Developer Summit. So you want to make sure 1 p.m. Eastern this week. So make sure that you do that. Let me see. I did not, Jennifer. She said there was a question that came in. I want to make sure I don't miss it. Jen, if you can put it up, I do not see one here, but let's see. Oh, there it is. Guys, I'm going to bring you back in here for a quick one. We want to make sure everybody gets it. I'm interested in how well your profiles are able to interface with the MMC3 wall panel support ribs. Also, can you do a top hung powered tilt out clear story, I guess is what he's saying.
Tilt out. I'm not sure we want to tilt out awning on it, maybe.
Yeah, I
answer
think
is
obviously they're very technical questions, and what I'll say about Alpine is that there's no project they will turn our back on. If we can just reach out specifically on that with the company to discuss it with the more technical side of our business is what I'd recommend.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Lauren, appreciate it. We love hard questions, but you use both of them, Craig and Todd, as a resource, and they'll be able to get you the answers probably from the people that do the engineering themselves. So I think that would be a great thing. All right, everybody, listen. Todd, Craig, stay right there. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in today. I will not be on Friday. I will not be on this Saturday for Coffee with Dave. I am, as Mark would say, on a fishing trip. That's right. And there is no power where I'm going. So no power, no internet. So we're going to be out, but we will be back on Monday with Amy Marks, the queen of prefab, is going to be live on this show. And also mark your calendars because I will be in San Antonio, Texas, the week of April 25th for World of Modular, and flying the same week to Advancing Prefab in Phoenix, Arizona. So make sure you tune in for that. All right, everybody else, listen, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will catch you Monday. Enjoy, Jennifer. Bye, all.